Hi everyone, I'm Lasya, lead DSC Andhra University College of Engineering. We are super excited to share with you all that 50 plus developer student clubs all across India have come together to launch an initiative named the Coding Culture, which is aimed to improve the coding environment at college campuses and help students in their journey of competitive programming. So, why did we come up with this initiative? We've noticed that students face issues on how and where to get started in the field of competitive programming. There are so many resources, and students get stuck with where to start from, which roadmap to follow, that is there something called a tutorial, etc. So not only do they lack guidance and mentorship, but also a great platform which is consistent in providing resources, conducting sessions, and enables interaction among students of different domains and capabilities. This in turn reflects in their placement and internship interviews. So the coding culture aims to provide not just these, but much more to keep the students motivated and push them to go that extra mile to learn and apply competitive programming. If you're someone who's struggling with how to start competitive coding, or even if someone who has started it but lost the way ahead, this is just what you need. This is a one-stop solution for all your worries, and we provide you with the roadmap to get started. This webinar aims to help you with best practices, learning resources, and all things competitive programming to get it done for you with the experts. On this note, we're excited to share with you all the Discord server, which will act as a medium for all of this. The Discord server link will be in the description below and will also be posted in the comment section and very soon. We've many more things planned for you and to get you all started with competitive programming. We are coming up with a coding competition on 21st of November. The details about this coding contest will be shared on the Discord server. So do join the Discord server and stay tuned. Till then, happy coding. I would now like to invite Arune and Abhishek, who will be the hosts for the evening and to take on the session. Over to you, Abhishek and Arune.
Hi guys, I'm Ananda Maheshwari, DSC lead of MIT World Peace University. I'm a passionate and inquisitive programmer with primary interest in backend and systems development. I heavily involve myself in various clubs and communities that promote the culture of programming and open source, like this one.
Languages, DSA, and technical blogging. I hold the position of Google Cloud Facilitator at VIT Bhopal University and an intern at Service Pado. I'm an entrepreneur by nature and a developer by passion, technical writer, motivator, and mentor for those who want to learn programming, development, and new technologies.
Before we dive into the session, we would like to launch a teaser.
Yes, indeed, a perfect start. Super excited for the teaser. Let's watch it.
So now is the time to welcome our speakers.
Well, our first speaker of the evening is Aanshul Sadaria. Aanshul is a photographer, writer, and a traveler, but primarily a developer with interest and enthusiasm in data science, machine learning, and deep learning solutions. He is currently working as a software engineer at Google to provide Google search solution to enterprise customers. Anshul is also an Institute Gold Medalist at IIIT Hyderabad. He has been a researcher at Precog and a computer vision intern at Adobe, which is a patent under filing.
Second speaker for the evening is Aarnav Jindal. Aarnav is a full stack developer who graduated from Delhi Technological University. He interned at Visa and Defense Research and Development Organization of India. Coming to his love for competitive programming, he is 6-star coder at CodeChef, candidate master at CodeForces, and ranked top 3 percentile in Google Kickstart 2019. Currently, he is working as a software development engineer at CureFit.
Hey guys, really excited to be here and join all of you in the session today.
Yeah. So coming on to our third speaker for the evening is Kunal Kushwaha. Kunal is an open source enthusiast and a junior pursuing his bachelor's in computer science and engineering from Maharaja Agrasen Institute of Technology. He is a cloud native computing foundation intern at the Linux Foundation, a major league hacking coach, Google Summer of Code mentor, Microsoft student partner, and a huge community guy, both as a learner and an educator.
Hello everyone, really excited for today's session and thanks for the introduction, Abhishek, and really looking forward to it. Thanks for having me.
So the motive behind this panel discussion is to get insights on your journey, opinions, do's and don'ts, and all the things competitive programming to motivate hundreds and thousands of students to improvise themselves and build a successful future in programming and technology. Let's get started.
Great. We will dive into the first question. The question states that how will you describe your experience and journey as a competitive coder? You can answer in the order for Anshul. You can go ahead, then Arnav, and then Kunal.
Okay. My journey started in the first year itself, like being in Triple IT Hyderabad. I was you can say forced into the coding culture directly on my first day. Like everyone around me on the first day was like making accounts on CodeForces, CodeChef, and everywhere. So that was the hitting moment to me. I should also get started with competitive programming. And as someone has said that you are actually the average of 5 people around you. So I was actually lucky enough for that. Everyone around me, like around my hostel room, was a great competitive programmer at that time itself, and so I absorbed as much as I could from them.
Great. Arnav, you can go ahead.
Okay, so competitive programming, guys. I've not spent that much time into competitive programming. I enjoy development more, particularly Android development and working on mobile app side development. But in my experience of 1 year with competitive programming, so I started with the CodeChef just for fun because everyone around me was into CodeChef, and there was a great hype about competitive coding. And I mean, always been sort of a guy who enjoys some competitive sports. So coming into college, that was the sport for everyone in computer science. And after doing a few contests, I think I really liked the format and the energy it brings out in people. And after that, I took a 2 year break from competitive coding, went into Android development. After I got my job at CureFit, then I found like I have 4 to 5 months to dabble into coding again. So that's when I started with CodeForces, and putting some time and effort and having some fun, I was able to hit the candidate master mark. So that's my journey into competitive coding.
Great. That is really inspirational. So we'll follow with Kunal.
Yeah, well, my journey has been I started with when I was in first semester. Uh, it was really overwhelming, for a fresher because there are a lot of technologies that you get introduced to in your first year. So like someone is doing AI ML, someone is doing blockchain, someone is doing web development right from the start. So one thing that I personally believe is we should like never skip the basics, and data structures algorithms are like the basic foundation of computer science. So I started with DSA, and then when I started with DSA, I got introduced to competitive coding. So I haven't been giving like any rank contests or participating in like TCP IP or anything big like that, but the main motive for me has been to first of all strengthen my problem solving skills and just get better at those things. It has also helped me quite a lot in my technical interviews, be for internships or other things like that. So other than that, I really like teaching, so CP has also helped me in that as well. So, yeah.
Well,
Great,
that is
that was
incredible.
incredible.
Yeah.
I hope your answers will inspire a lot of students here today. My next question is for Arnav. What do you think are the career opportunities in competitive programming?
Well, as far as competitive programming is concerned with careers, so I think it how it helps is basically it gives you a great platform to hone your skills. In so if you see the way CodeForces contests are structured or many other contests, they have a very similar format to what you'll find in interviews. So I feel like these competitive programming platforms prepare you for coding interviews very well, especially when it comes to Google and Facebook and sometimes Amazon. So I think that's where it helps with your career in one way. But talking about what careers it can open for you, specifically into competitive programming, one is obviously many people get into teaching. I've seen many people do very well getting into teaching after getting pretty good ranks on these platforms. And obviously, then if you see people who started CodeForces and all these other platforms, they were actually initially great coders. So I think there's a lot of scope. If you think you have what it takes, and if you want to explore that side more, you can probably start something like CodeChef or CodeForces. And if you put enough effort into it, you can probably make a great career out of
Great. That was a really wise advice. So moving on, the next question is from Kunal. So, according to Kunal, what is the right time for the college student to start learning and practicing data structures and algorithm?
As soon as possible. If you're in first year, start right now. If you're in first semester, start right now. Because what I believe in is that, see, if you start data structures algorithms as soon as possible, then when you are actually looking for internships and stuff, let's say in your third year, you will not get you will not get overburdened by the tutorials and stuff. So if you're, let's say, practicing from right first year a little by little, then you're not going to be like, I have my interview in 1 week, I want to do all the questions on lead code, I want to look up all the important topics, ye question maine nahi kiya, ye nahi kiya, ye nahi aata. So to save yourself from that, I would say that start as early as possible. And data structure algorithms are, is something that you can start like when you start college. So that is what I would suggest. The second point over here is that if you start early, you will also get some time to give towards other things like development, open source, and all these things. So uh, my advice would be start as early as you can. Yep.
That's actually a great answer. I agree with you. And I also think that it's never too late. It's better to start early, but it's never too late. So my next question is for Anshul. What is the significance of competitive programming fields like data science, data analysis, etc.?
So actually, when you talk about competitive programming, it doesn't directly impact these fields at all. But when you say like a lot of soft skills which are used in data science and machine learning and all of these things, you can derive them from competitive programming. Like if I like this is a common misconception within people that those who are hardcore competitive programmers, they are not good at other things. But what I have seen at my college, and that is obviously a limited experience, but those guys are doing really awesome job in each and every field, like say ML or AI or blockchain. They are doing wonders in every field. So first thing that it directly helps is the math. The math that is involved in the CP is going to be advantageous in all the fields, more profoundly in data science and AI, obviously. But along with that, I have seen that the reflexes are really good. Like when I'm talking about reflexes, these are the mental reflexes that when you face an uncounted problem before, these guys don't feel nervous. Like they are positive minded and they look at like they openly look at the solutions, and they are quite observant, so as to say. So these are the soft skills which are pretty much derived from competitive programming, I guess say. But having said that, it's not important that competitive programming only is the source to those soft skills. Like there are other people who have derived the soft skills outside, like without doing competitive programming as well. But definitely, like this is one thing that might help you or alleviate your level to a certain extent by a lot.
Yeah, well, that was really insightful. Even I believe that competitive programming teaches us a way to think how to approach a problem. Yeah, so totally agree with that. So, rolling out the next question, which is for Arnav, that with the variety of questions that competitive coding offers, does it help one to adapt to changing environments and solve scenarios faster?
I guess he is facing some issues. Let me take it up. So the question to Arnav was, with the variety of questions that competitive programming offers, does it help one to adapt to different scenarios in a professional life?
Yeah, I guess sure. Because when you look into how competitive programming works, you essentially get to work with a lot of different DSA and a lot of different concepts that tries to it very holistic in its approach. You think about a lot of things in a way, like let's say you're solving a problem. You can approach it in 5 to 6 different ways, each one offering some optimization over the other in terms of maybe space or time or something else. So I think it opens the way you think about a problem, how you approach a problem in a multitude of ways. So I think that way competitive programming offers you a kind of perspective and a kind of thinking that maybe you can develop otherwise. So when you come into your professional life, when you're working with such software, obviously when you're especially starting out, you won't see problems being very difficult or being essentially at the scale of what you come across in competitive programming, somewhere around like 7 star on CodeChef, or very high rating on CodeForces. But what you'll find is that the concepts or the problem that you get in the company, it's kind of abstract. There is not a lot of information about it. You're just handed out a problem. Then you need to think about it in various different ways and approach the problem based on the constraints that you have and how your seniors see fit. So I think the way of thinking and the way of developing a problem is how competitive programming is great.
That was an amazing answer. Next question is for you, Anshul. What is your experience in the application of data structures and algorithms as a professional software development engineer? So have you come across scenarios where you needed those, or it has been worked fine without them as well?
Yeah. So actually, data structures and algorithms is something that is going to be useful in any of the professional software development engineers. So I cannot think of an instance where you won't be using it. In fact, and companies such like Google and Microsoft, they have a lot of abstraction over the data structures. Like when I talk about the abstraction, not like the implementation is hidden from them, but they don't use the data structures in the raw format as it is available in the standard template library. So a lot of constructions one over the other are used. So if you're not aware about the internal implementations of the data structures, then you might not be able to use them efficiently like as it is required. So that is really important. Like if you are well aware of the different optimizations, like when I say about optimizations, like let's take an example of binary tree. So if you don't know the difference between a balanced binary tree and a binary tree, then surely you won't be knowing that the worst case complexity of a binary tree is going to be n square, like insertion or deletion, because
That was actually a great answer, Anshul.
Yeah. So,
Uh,
well, now moving on to the next question. Next question is, uh, next question is that how does a choice of language can affect one performance in a competitive coding? So this one is for Kunal.
I believe it's totally up to you, but I have seen many like high rank competitive coders. They like most of them use C++, and a few times people also use Java. So me particularly, I really like Java as like over C++ for competitive coding. That is only because I don't like pointers and stuff. But now I'm doing Golang, so I got introduced to pointers again. But yeah, talking about like it's totally like a preference that you can have. But if we're talking about like competitions and stuff, then over there I believe the time like it took to actually run the test cases and stuff, they that might vary. um, um, Arnav has given like he's a top programmer for like Google Kickstart, so he might be able to answer how the different languages compared towards the scoring and ranking of these things. But if you're talking about, let's say, from just lead coding questions and stuff, interview preparations and all these things. In that particular case, any choice of language, like the popular ones, C, C++, Java, Python, these work. The main thing that they are focusing on is your problem solving skills, and not just getting the right answer, but how you go towards that right answer. So the entire process, that is what they're judging you on. But talking about ranks and stuff, I believe Arnav can give a bit of insights on that.
Yeah, sure. So thank you for delegating the question. How the language affects, I think, as rightly pointed out, C++, Java are the main languages that are used probably, including Python to some extent, I think. But in my experience, C++ is the best language. Compare it with any other language for competitive programming, especially. Because firstly, when you're giving a competition, you have a paucity of time. Okay, and the way you run your test cases, the way you organize your code, it's very, very important. So let's say you pick up Java or a Python language. So when you compile your test case and run the test cases, it might take a slightly more time. It might take slightly more time compared to C++, but that can be what makes the difference in your outcome. Wherein the platform like CodeForces is so brutal, where each minute costs you 2 points or something, and I mean you need to be very quick with your approach. So I think that is the place where language helps. It does create a difference. And also coming to an important thing is a lot of the solutions that you come across on these platforms, they are written in C++ only. So if you have an understanding of only Java or Python, it can be a little difficult for you. And that way, I think the portability of C++ that way, how everyone is using that and how easy it is to grasp something in C++. So I think that's a really great plus point for anyone who is pursuing it in C++.
I totally agree. My personal choice of language is C++ as well. So my next question is to all of you. So it was supposed to be what is your programming language of choice? Kunal already answered Java, and Arnav has C++. Anshul, what's your choice of language when it comes to competitive programming?
So I would concur with Arnav here. Like C++ is my choice of language because of the same reasons that he stated. Like Python, if you talk about Python, it's a high level language, wherein some of the libraries in the lower level are actually implemented in C++. So you get a more flexible and a modular approach and grasp over the data structure as compared to like Python. So I first initiated with C and then moved on to C++.
Yeah,
That's great.
and even I use C++, and I would also like the participants and the attendees to tell us their choice of language, which language are they using currently, and we can move on with the next question. Yeah. So the next question is to Arnav, that which upcoming languages like Rust, Go, or Julia do you think can have an impact on the competitive programming?
I hope none, because we have been working in C++ for a long time. It will be a little difficult to get a hang of all these languages later on. But in my opinion, I think I don't have a lot of idea about these languages, but from what I've heard, I think Go is a bit of a simpler language to implement and start with. Some people I heard are comparing it to Python and say that it's probably easier to implement. Not sure about that, but the other thing I came across was this amazing language Julia, and although it's like a groundbreaking work in data science, but I've also heard that in some cases it has been able to surpass the performance of C++ in execution time. So I think if we want to talk about a language where you can flexibly implement some data structures or some other high level concepts and even get some improvement in efficiency of your code, then I think Julia is the language to use.
That's great. So we should check out Julia as soon as possible. So next question is for
And
you,
in case
Kunal.
you wanna,
Yeah.
in case you wanna contribute to like cloud native software, so like CNCF projects, 90% of those are like using Golang. So in case anyone is interested in that, then Golang is the place to be.
Cool. So, Kunal, Python is considered to be an easy to write language. Does that help in competitive programming as well?
I I mean, see, like Arnav also mentioned that the 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 amount of code that you have to write is also, those minute minutes can also make a difference in a rank contest. Talking about Python, I believe, first of all, Python is considered to be a slow language as compared to other languages like C++ or Java. So that might make a difference in your execution time. And in other cases, I have seen people who work with Python. Let's say you're given a question that is dealing with really, really large numbers. So an alternative for that in C++, I'm not sure what is, but in Java, there's big integer class and stuff like that. And in Python, it's just like, it's really diverse in terms of, if you're dealing with big, large numbers. But I have seen people who do competitive coding in Python, but talking about like rank contests, mostly I have seen people work with C++ only. Yeah. The main reason I believe is because Python is considered as a slow language.
Yeah. So initially the scenario of the college students is like during the first year, they are more obsessed with Python. So they try to implement it everywhere. So it might be really insightful for them.
What I would suggest is like if you have never done a programming language before, then don't start with Python, because in Python there are many things that are abstracted. So you won't get to learn much about object-oriented programming and all these things. So start with either C++ or Java, totally up to you. Because once you do just one language and know the concepts and everything, learning Python is not going to be that difficult for you. So if you're just starting out, then don't start out with Python. You can start out with either Java or C++.
Yeah, that was really informative. So moving on to the next question, which is from Aarnav. Which factors outside the code and logic building affect one performance in competitions like typing speed, etc.?
Okay, so typing speed, I think that is something that improves with time, or the more time you spend on competitive programming, it will improve, but I don't think it's a major factor. What factors in is firstly having a good internet connection. Let's say you're solving a problem, the last moment your net goes down, you find yourself at the bottom of the rank list. But talking about the major thing is basically after each contest ends, I think this is where a lot of people make a mistake. They do not upsolve. So for those who are not familiar with upsolving, it's basically going through the tutorial, going through the problems again after the contest is over, and trying to solve the problem again by maybe taking some hints from the tutorial, or going through the tutorial completely, trying to implement a few problems on the same concept, and then coming to the original problem. So I think this thing is very important, that you always upsolve questions, be it the ones that you were able to solve during the contest, and even the ones that you were not able to solve, especially, but the ones that you could solve. I think that you should upsolve those as well. Why? Because in competitive platforms like CodeForces, I've seen that although in simple problems you can solve some questions in ON or ON square time complexity, but there is still some scope for ON optimizations or log n optimization. So you get to learn a lot, and that's what competitive programming is all about, learning. So I think that is a major factor of solving, and you should always focus on that.
That's great. Next question is for you, Anshul. Like many people are scared of mathematics. So if they are coming into competitive programming, do you think does being good at math give you an advantage? And if it does, what specific topics should one focus on?
Yeah, so definitely when you are starting with competitive programming, math should be the first set of questions that you should start solving. Like before starting the arrays and the strings, I would recommend start with the mathematical problems. Like there are lots of the first thing that comes to my mind is the prime numbers, like the HCF, the GCD, Euclidean's algorithm, and the CU of Eratosthenes. So those are the problems that you would want to start with, so that your brain is quicker to be aware about the mathematics. So when I say being aware about the mathematics is not important like if you know the math behind it, but it's important that you know that mathematics can solve this particular thing about data structures and algorithms. So being aware about that thing is really important. And when I talk about mathematics being used in computer programming, so a lot of things like linear algebra. Then in graph theory, we talk about discrete mathematics. So discrete mathematics is something that I think you will learn in your first year usually, like in most of the colleges. So discrete mathematics is one of the subjects that you don't want to take it lightly. So that can be really helpful. And probability and permutation combination is something that you will like in CodeForces, like almost like B level questions can be solved with this basic set of mathematical tools that you have. And like if you go on to C and D level problems, then there will be quite a substantial application of data structures and some heavy algorithms. So these A and B level problems can easily be solved with mathematical implementation. So having a quicker knowledge of what mathematical application can be used in that can like cost you a lot of minutes when it comes to the final result. I think Arno would concur with that.
Yeah, I totally on point. I think I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, and while talking about mathematics, it also reminds me of the Euler challenge that is very trending on HackerRank. So, would you guys like to have some shadow on it? Euler's challenge.
I believe there's a website, projectuler.com.
Yeah.
You can check with that website out. It has all the mathematical problems related to CP.
Okay, great. So, well, moving on to the next question. Yeah. So, next question is to all of you that how will you describe the joy of computation and problem solving?
So that actually the green tick mark is the
Yeah,
source
yeah.
of the adrenaline for a lot of us. So that is really like a motivational, like it gives you the momentum required to solve the next question. Like, so that is really important to solve your first problem in a competitive contest. Like if you solve it within 10 minutes, it's good. If you solve it within 5 minutes, it's really amazing. So it gives you the momentum for the rest of the 85 minutes or like, let's say 115 minutes, whatever the contest time is. So that is really important. The first question is going to be really crucial. So if you miss out, like if you provide a wrong answer for that, it's going to derail your entire performance throughout.
Cool.
Arnav, what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, sure. So I think this is something interesting that I talked about with my friends, and the interesting answer that came up was that the best thing about this computational problem solving is validation. So when you submit an answer and you get the automatic, when you get the right answer, it's like someone is giving you some validation that what you've done is right, what you know is correct. So that joy of validation, constant validation that someone is seeking, competitive programming is really good for that. The other thing I think about problem solving is something about how we as a community of engineers grow up in this country, amazing country, India, where in 11, 12, you are fed into this system where you're competing with lakhs of people for some positions. So that thing of beating everyone else around you, being on the top, that competitive spirit that is inside you, I think it feeds that as well. So these two things, I think they play a very important role. That's for me. That's my experience and some of my friends. So I think that's what brings a lot of joy to me. But yeah, depends on everyone else.
Totally on point. What about you, Kunal?
Exactly like Anshul and Arnav mentioned, because in like when you're applying to some internship or something, they also have an online coding round, and they also have these check like green tick marks for test cases and stuff. So over there, you have to come up with the entire solution. You can't. There are no hints. There's no one helping you. On top of that, there's a clock. So that clock is ticking, tick, tick, tick. And when you get to see those green check marks in that, and you're like, okay, my practice has finally paid off, and like whatever work that I did has finally paid off. So that is one thing. Other than that, most joy I get is I there's a green check mark on GitHub as well when there are like CI/CD like test cases and stuff. So when contributing to open source, you make a new pull request. And if it's a like really complex project, most of the time like first it shows that these test case failed, and then you make some changes. The maintainers give you feedback, and then after that, at the end, when your all the green check marks come and then pull request gets merged, that is the best feeling. So yeah, that is a joy for me.
Great. So, Kunal, what in your opinion is the ideal gateway for someone to for like ideal gateway into competitive programming if someone is starting?
Yeah, sure. First of all, start with data structures algorithms and don't get stuck in the tutorial hell. So tutorial hell is basically, let me first learn this, then I'll contribute. Let me first complete this entire playlist, then I will give contests. So don't get stuck in the tutorial hell. If you give contests as a beginner and you fail, then make sure, like Arna mentioned, that check the editorial after the contest is over. So if there's a problem you weren't able to solve, check the editorial for that. Other than that, the gateway is what I personally believe in is focus on the depth instead of the breadth. So instead of doing 500 easy questions, I would suggest do 200, 300 good questions. And the good thing over here is you will get to see patterns. Okay. So these competitive coding questions have patterns. So when you see a particular problem, so एकदम दिमाग में click कर जाता है कि ये इसमें use होगा. Let's say you are like 1 to n तक के range के numbers दे रखे हैं. You like इसमें cyclic sort लगेगा. You are given let's say m sorted list. So आपके दिमाग में click कर जाएगा इसमें heap वगैरह कुछ लगेगा. If you're given a sorted array, दिमाग में click कर जाएगा binary search लगेगा. So that thing comes when you are solving good questions in which you can see these patterns. So I'm not saying do lead code hard or anything as a beginner. Lead code medium is also fine. Some easy questions are also fine, but do questions related to these patterns. You will see a few patterns, 17 to 18 patterns, like, 0 1 knapsack and like heaps and like binary search and like binary search tree. Most important ones, depth first search, breadth first search. So once you are familiar with these particular patterns, then when you get a new question, and even if that question is totally new to you, you have not seen that before, you might be able to relate to that with the questions you have solved previously. So that is my like advice. Focus on the depth instead of the breadth.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, that's a great answer for the tutorial. And I believe you recently made a video as well. It was amazing.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
shout out to my channel Code for Cause. In case anyone interested, check it out. Good content over there.
Yeah, great. So, talking about the gateway, which brings us to the next question, that which is to Arnav, that what do you think are the most common mistakes that we commit while doing competitive programming?
So I think, as rightly pointed out by Kunal as well, one thing is getting stuck in tutorial hell. Never do that. You never have enough knowledge to start DSA or competitive programming. It's when you do it, it's like learning on the job. So you start with DSA, you start with competitive programming, you learn while doing it. You go through tutorials. There's always some of the other concept that is missing in your knowledge bank, and that's when you go about it, do some questions on it, and you increase your knowledge. So one thing is, don't worry about where you are right now. Pick an easy platform. Start. At least start from somewhere, so that you are in the right direction. And basically, you start in a direction. The rest things fall in place automatically. The other thing that I talked about already was upsolving. Always upsolve, guys. Never forget about it. That's the key to success in competitive programming, definitely. The last thing that I think pays off very well is persistence. So I know I'm talking about it again, but my 4 months of going on to this platform, CodeForces, and hitting from 1500 to this 1932 rating, it was all about persistence. Mainly because since in my fourth year I had some time to kill. I spent like 4 hours daily on CodeForces, and I tried to solve past contests, past problems, going through tutorials, upsolving, and everything, because I just wanted that mark. I just wanted that position for myself. I saw it help people, but I wanted that. So persistence and hard work. If you do that, I think you can do anything. That's the key to any problem in your life. But I think some people fail to do that. That's a mistake. I think if you do that, you can achieve anything.
Those are some really amazing tips. I believe like taking the first step is essential, and then putting on the hard work with persistence matters the most. Next question is for you, Anshul. So, in competitive programming, we are very short on time, so we have to write code like quickly. Like in professional scenarios, that might not be the case. So, how does competitive programming affect one's quality of code?
So yeah, actually, this is one of the disadvantages of competitive programming. Like the quality of the code is quite adversely affected by this. This may not be true for all competitive programmers. I'm not generalizing this thing, but I see that in a majority of people. So I will tell you one of my instance. Like we were giving a gym contest while we were preparing for ACM ICPC. So this thing happened that my friend started to do the base code. It failed on the first try, so I started debugging it. So while debugging it, there were some random pieces of ifs and else conditions everywhere. There were some not so wanted while loops around. There were some debugging statements, printf here and there. So the thing is, at the end of the like it got submitted, that was cool. But at the end of the contest, when I looked at the code again, I was not able to recognize that if I had written it or not. So this thing is actually really important that your code is reproducible. So spend some time, let's say 5 minutes per problem after the contest is over, to make it reproducible and more modular. So that like in future when you want to come back to that problem, you are able to understand it. And it actually is a good practice to restructure your problem in a way so that others can also understand it, not just you. So that is really important and one of the disadvantages of competitive programming.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. The structure and the optimization of code is really necessary. So further, I would like to discuss one more problem that many face. Whenever even after getting started with CP, they might stuck at 1 star, 2 star, being demotivated, they quit and move into development. So what will you advise that how can I progress fast as a competitive coder?
So to progress fast, I mean, to progress fast is not a good word to say. I think the better word should be like, how can you progress as a competitive programmer? So I think that if you are stuck at something and you are demotivated, so as you said that upsolving is really important. So if you are stuck in some context, you didn't perform well as you thought. So just go through the tutorials at the end of the CodeForces contest. Like it gets around 24 hours to 48 hours. The tutorial is released. So go through that and understand what was the blocking point inside your brain when you are coding that you are not able to come up with that solution. And there's a momentum loss when you go to 1 star or 2 star. So in order to gain the momentum back, try to solve some easy questions. Like as Kunal also said that it's really important to solve quality questions, but when you have lost the momentum, it's really important to get the momentum back. Otherwise, like as you said, that people will move on to something else, like web development or something. So solve some
Yeah.
easy questions so that you gain your confidence. So as you gain your confidence, the problems which you are not able to solve when the confidence was not there, like it might sound miraculous, but you will be able to solve those problems when you have the confidence. So confidence is a really brave thing to have when you are in a contest.
Yeah, that.
So like persistence and hard work is the key. So next question is for you, Kunal. So what keeps you motivated to continue practicing competitive programming alongside like college, assignment, internships? What what really motivates you to continue doing it?
The thing is that I believe in a pie-shaped learning. So know everything about something, something about everything. And I have been balancing competitive coding and development and machine learning since like when I was in college. So my college, like shout out to my college, it has been a big help. There's not much attendance issue or assignments and stuff like that. So my college has been a big help in that case, that I'm able to do things like simultaneously. But yeah, what I would say is my motivation is just getting better than I was yesterday. So it's not just related to competitive coding, but it's like in general everything. So currently I'm working on Thanos, which is a like a CNCF projects. So we're getting to work on these big projects. Like these are open source projects. So getting that feeling that the code that you're writing is actually being used by a lot of people, and these communities are really great as well. So they actually also uh, uh, sort of like notice when you contribute. So like I contributed to Facebook's Jest project. So now I feel really good that if someone is using Jest had like 2 million downloads on npm in 1 week, and during that week I rolled out a new feature. So I felt really good that the code that I have written as an open source contributor is helping a lot of people. So coming to competitive coding, it's like motivation for that also is regarding being better at problem solving and like gaining new skills and stuff. But other than that, also since this is like I'm currently in third year, so internship hunt period, so this is going to help me in that as well. And competitive coding and other things are going to help me next year as well, and I'll be looking for full-time roles and stuff. So that is some motivation as well.
Yeah, great. That was really motivating and inspiring for the attendees. And also, one general question to all of you, that being in competitive coding throughout the engineering period, is there any drawbacks or downfall in that?
So as I said that the quality of the code is affected. So that is one of the things that I already mentioned. So something about the interview experience that I had. So when I was shortlisted for Google, like there were a lot of better coders. You can say better competitive coders than
Yeah.
me, like those who had 1900 ranking or above 2000 ranking. So there were a lot of guys along with me in that pool of interview. So I was selected on campus, not off campus. So that is the pool I'm talking about here. So unfortunately, or you can say like somehow they didn't got selected and I got selected. So when I asked the hiring committee, when I asked the recruiters, so what they said was that sometimes when you are very good at competitive programming, your body language starts becoming a little egoistic. So you need to balance that soft skill, like how you present yourself during the interviews is really important. So if you sound a little bullying person, so the interviewer is going to give you negative marks for that, because interviewer ultimately wants you to behave in a way that he expects his or her teammate to behave. So if he feels good to be with you, then and then only the interviewer is going to give you positive rating. So that is something like a soft skill that I think is a negative side of competitive programming, because people get overconfident with time, like those who are really, really good at that. But I have also seen humble people, like not to say that all those who have good ratings are like bullying, but like there are a lot of good guys as well. So that is something that you need to balance. So those guys balance well, and those who were with me in the pool, they unfortunately didn't balance well. So that is important.
Those are some really good tips. Arnav, do you have something to add?
Yeah, so one thing that Anshul rightly pointed out, I actually know of some people who had 2200, 2100 rating on CodeForces, but that ability, that arrogance that comes with the, I think, prized possession of that great rating, that hits you hard in any interview. So that is, I think, definitely a downfall. The other thing that I see with competitive programming is that people, when you're sitting for a competitive programming contest, your sole focus is on thinking up a solution quickly, implementing it, getting it done with, and moving to the next question. Now, where this thing fail, where this thing creates an issue, is when you're sitting for an interview, you are still in that mindset. You are still running on some clock that's about to finish, and you need to think of a solution quick, submit it, and move ahead. But that's not how an interview is supposed to be. In an interview, you are supposed to talk to the interviewer, discuss the solution, think of the various different scenarios, different DSA. So I actually interviewed with a few companies. So I think this was a drawback for me as well. They said you knew the best solution, you came up with the solution quickly, but you did not talk about the inefficient approaches. So I was stuck there. I was like, I came up with the solution quickly. It's the best solution. What is the problem? But they say a job is not only about coming up with a solution quickly. It's not an individual activity. It's a group activity. So you need to discuss the inefficient approaches as well. It's not an issue. Start with the base case, then try to optimize. So I think that's where I think competitive programming is. It does create some issue. One last thing I'd like to add is some people get into competitive programming so much. I mean, that they tend to forget their GPA and other things that are going on in college. You will find some very cool competitive programmers with the GPAs of 7, below 8 basically, which will later on impact your performance when you're sitting for interviews or applying to companies, because there is a soft criteria of somewhere around 8 plus. And in Google and some other companies, I've seen that they need a GPA of 9 plus. So I think balancing that DSA competitive programming along with your GPA and your curriculum, that's also important.
I'll surely note that down myself as well. Kunal, do you have something to add?
Yeah, really great points by Arnav and Anshul. I just want to add, like, most students just do competitive coding. I don't know. It's just my belief that they don't really explore other fields that have so much to offer. So like in the development aspects, so like there's open source there and all these other fields. So I believe that people who are like really into competitive coding and stuff, they tend to like forget about that there are other opportunities as well. like open source and like other development fields. So that is something that I also think is like sometimes a drawback for students. Like they're not widening their knowledge; they're just focusing on CP. So like I mentioned, pie shape learning. So feel free to like explore other fields as well and see what you really want to like work on and make sure you give your 100% in that. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a really good point. Like we should spend our college time exploring our different fields so that when you're applying for jobs, we have a career path ready. Uh, Anshul, do you recall any situation where data structure like failed to deliver the promised speed up? So any situation that you might have faced?
So actually, the data structures would not fail to deliver the promised speedups in normal situations. They would fail only when, like, uh, let me give you an example for that. So when we talk about Q sort, like sorting techniques, which depend on what the positioning of the elements are. So that depends on base case to base case. Like it will vary from case to case. So if your array is in a particular order, then Q sort will give you varying results. So this thing happened. Like I was the teaching assistant for data structures and algorithms in my college. So we gave a particular question wherein usually heap is a promised solution. Like you can solve that question using heap quite efficiently. But we designed some test case in particular wherein the heap would fail terribly. Like the ordering of the elements was in such a way that heap cannot be used. So you need to come up with some efficiency, like you need to add some other complementary or auxiliary data structures along with heap so that all the test cases are covered. So those are some of the minute things which are not generalized. Those are specialized conditions. So you might need to be aware about them as well.
Yes, there are instances where we need to take care of these cases. So moving on to our next question. Yes. So moving on to our next question, which is to Arnav, that how would you tackle the situation occurring from complacency of tiny success and failure, especially at the time of competitive coding?
So I think we already discussed about failures. Many people
Yeah.
tend to drop out when they hit a 1 star rating, 2 star rating, when they cannot progress for some time. Or even on CodeForces, you start off with a rating of 1500, and as it often happens when you give your first contest, it drops down. It in rare cases it will go up, but generally it falls down to 1400. In worst cases, some 1100 or something. And so I think that's where people get a little afraid. But I think we already discussed about that. Now coming to successes. So what I feel is that you cannot. So when you're sitting in a group of competitive programmers, when you're in this community, there is someone always who is better than you. Always there's someone on top of you, and even if not in your particular discipline, in some other discipline. So that's what motivates me. I think I have that competitive spirit, that drive to basically I want to emerge on top. I always want to be on top. I cannot be second. That's not acceptable to me. So I always try to push myself, but then that's where it helps. Like if you get complacent, like I was able to hit some 1700, 1800, which was a pretty good rating compared to people who got me into competitive programming. They were somewhere around 1600. But you need to adjust the situation accordingly. You need to adjust your company. You need to adjust your competition. Look up to people. You need to surround yourself with people who are better than you. That's where I think that how to say it, but that's where you feel like you're not doing enough, that you need to hit harder and bring back more effort into it. So I think that helps me to basically not get complacent about my success and keep on getting back and trying to improve myself.
Those are some nice tips. Next question is for you, Kunal. What sources do you generally learn from, like books, video lessons, or what do you prefer? What do you recommend?
Sure. There's a really good course. First of all, there are like two types of people. So people who like learning from video tutorials, and people who like learning from like books and documentation. So for me personally, it has been like books. And after I had like a basic knowledge, then there's this course by MIT Open Courseware on Introduction to Algorithms, I believe 6.042. And there's one more course by MIT Open Courseware, which is Mathematics for Computer Science. That is also a really great one. In that, I learned about like how to solve the most complex recurrence relations in a really easy way. It's a really good course, and number theory, graph theory, everything is covered in that. Topological sort, TFS, PFS, everything. So it's a really good course. Mostly people say that it's not beginner friendly, but I found it to be beginner friendly. If you have like a, if you just give it a little time, it's you can digest and understand. And there's also like exercises and assignments and everything. So that has helped me. And other than that, books. So in books, there's a competitive coding handbook. I forgot the name, but if you just Google competitive coding handbook, you will get that. I forgot the name. Well, let me just give me 1 second. So that book is also really helpful in that it's like, and there's one more website like CES, like problems. So CSES, it has like some problems for particular particular like topics like graphs, Pickle problems, and all these problems. Other than that, let me just open up something. Other than that, yeah, blogs on CodeForces are really good. So people who are really active on CodeForces, they have written blogs on like, for example, how to strong string related dynamic programming questions. People have written blogs on that and things like that. Other than that, there's a website called atcoder.com. Over there is an educational DP contest. So in there they have the dynamic programming questions. But yeah, I mean there are like resources from a lot of places, um, blogs and stuff. Mostly what I practice on is like lead code, atcoder, and CodeForces. That is what I practice on. But regarding books, let me just okay, here we go. um, Problem solving. Yeah, so this book is what is the name? Competitive Programmer's Handbook by Anity Lakinsnon. Draft July 3, 2018. So like matrices, probability, game theory, string algorithms, segment trees, everything is like covered in this. So like Anshul also mentioned like prime numbers and everything. So yeah, this is a good book.
Those are some really amazing resources. We would
One more,
like to
one more,
know,
one more. I
yeah,
forgot. Like
yeah,
Cracking the Coding Interview by Gaylord McDowell. That's also a good book.
Yeah.
yeah. We would like to know what sources you learned from. Let us know in the comment section below. And also make sure you join our Discord server. We will have an amazing resource compilation for you there as well.
Yeah. I hope your resources might help many attendees out here. So moving on to our next question, which is a general question to all of you, that whenever we begin with a question, so what is your strategy when you go to solve a question?
I think we'll start with Arnav in this case.
So actually, I don't know what to say about this question because this is something that comes to you with time. Initially, when you see a problem, and when you're a beginner, it will be very difficult to come up with a solution or even think about which algorithm, which data structure to use. But when you put in some time, put in some effort, do a lot of practice, you will see that when you see the constraints. So in a CodeForces problem, CodeChef problem, there is a lot of text, but that is usually irrelevant. What you really need is those constraints. What is the space? What is the time? What is the size of n? Based on that, you know there's a specific set of DS that you will use, and that will give you the answer. Now, while that comes with experience, the other thing, so there's no hard and fast way about that, how to approach a particular problem. And the cool thing that happens when you put in a lot of time into this is you have some sort of an intuition. Like you see a problem, your brain will go to all sorts of different places, or it will see all kinds of different solutions you've come up with in the past. And you can like do some high tech sci-fi stuff in your brain and come up with a solution. It becomes clear there. But I think there's no strategy for that. You just need to put in a lot of hard work, a lot of effort. The more you solve problems, the more you know about the different types of approaches. Because let's face it, new kinds of problems come very slowly. Any person who is making a problem is basically a person who was in your position, who spent a lot of time, and 4 years down the line, he's making problems for you. The problems don't change, only the stories change. So if you solve these questions well, if you solve many questions, strategy comes in with time automatically.
Yeah, that's totally on point. We can add the like constraint part in the like common mistakes as well. I've also been there, done that. So next question is for you, Anshul. How do you stay focused in a long competition, like 3 4 hour long competition, when you want to give your 100%? How do you stay focused for that long of a duration?
So for this, it's really important to have proper rest before you start the competition. So that can help you like feel concentrated for longer patches of time. Take a bottle of water with you throughout the contest, so that whenever you feel a little nervous or a little edgy, so drink water. It helps you. Kunal. Yeah. So drink water. It helps you release the nervousness. And it is important to understand that in a long competition, to solve a question quicker is not important, but to stay active throughout the entire contest, like throughout the entire period of time, is really important for that. So take a rest in between if you want to take a rest, but make sure that you go through all the tests, like all the edge cases, all the boundary points while um, debugging the problem, so that you don't make a wrong submission for that, because long competitions are designed for this only. They are not meant to like do some speed coding. They are meant that so that you endure during the entire time and have the correct submission on the first go itself. And having said that, I think like I want to add one point to the previous question that Arnav answered. So in a competitive programming, like when you read the question first, try to do a dry run on the test cases first. First of all, like if you're able to do the dry run perfectly in the test cases, then and then only you should start coding the problem. If you're not able to do the dry run, then you need to like come up with a better solution, come up with a different solution. Having said that, I find using templates a lot better. Like when I talk about templates, is like the debug statements to debug, like to print the 2D metrics, to print a 1D metrics, to print a number. So you need to have this default functions within your code, so that you don't spend time while debugging. Like when you face a failed solution, you don't end up coding the a nested for loop and print the 2D metrics. So those debug statements should be pre-coded, and when you open the file should be like it should open up with those debug functions. So that can be really helpful when you face a wrong solution. That is important in contest.
Yeah,
So
that
I guess this can be added to advantage of competitive programming in like professional life as well. So staying focused for long periods of time.
Yes, yes. 9 to 5 jobs can be really tricky sometimes.
yeah. So yeah, that was noteworthy point. So this brings me to the next question that uh, how one second. Yes. So keeping the note of long challenges, how to stay focused and how to get faster solution in when it comes to short challenges.
So talking
Arnav,
about the
would you like
short, yeah, I think
Yeah,
Arnav will
Yeah.
say that.
no, you also go ahead.
Yeah, so for the short challenges, as I like, as Arnav also previously, yeah. So as Arnav also previously said, and I also said that having some debugging templates can be really helpful to cut down some time. And Arnav said that first, like there is a long story. So before reading the story, just read the constraints so that you know that it should be O of n or O of log n. So when you read the problem, along with reading the problem, you actually hit the O of log n solutions only. Otherwise, if you read the question first and then move on to constraints, then you will actually think of innumerable solutions, which after reading constants, you need to trim down. So that will be a lot of wastage of time during short contests. So first read the constraint, then the problem.
Uh, Arnav, would you like to add anything?
Can you please repeat the question once?
So
Yeah,
how
the
to
question
improve
was
like
that how to speed the problem solving, especially when it comes to short contest.
So guys, I think this is where a lot of experience helps, because when you're sitting for these so these short contests especially, which is often the case in CodeForces, you come across some templates that a lot of guys have created. Now these templates vary a lot in what all they have pre-implemented. Like some things that you need to implement again and again, they are already there in a very shorthand notation. For example, your typical for loops. So you write a complete 10-20 characters, but there are often some templates wherein you like write for IA0n, and it basically opens up to for int IQ to 0, I less than n, and so on. So these short things. So what it helps with is basically it frees up your mind, uh, and it gives you the time to think about the solution and then code it quickly, because you then don't have to worry about some. Firstly, you don't worry about the issues in those short statements. You don't need to write it again and again. And also you have usually some predefined functions, particularly like, let's say you need to calculate the BCD or something like that. If it is not in the header files, you already have that written somewhere. And again, that thing about debugging that Anshul said, you already have some statements that can print out the entire, let's say whatever variable you need to print at any given point. You have a pretty way of printing it so that it's not a burden on your mind writing the entire statement again and again. So I think this is this definition of your resources, of the things that you need at the time of implementation. If you have that down, that will be a major boost. I think I saw a lot of improvement in my rating just because I use these templates. So I think if you can start with that, that will really help you a lot.
That's great. Kunal, what do you like do in cases where you know the required concept but you're not able to like translate in the form of code?
This used to happen when I was a beginner, and this often happens with a lot of my friends as well. So they're like, yeah, we know how to like solve the problem, but we are having problems in coding it, or they are most of the time like missing some edge cases, and one or two test cases are failing, others are passing. And most confusing thing sometimes happens is that the code is running on paper, but when they compile it, then they're having error in the same test case. This can be solved only via practice, I believe, and like presence of mind. So read the problem again and again, check the test cases, check if there are like any edge cases. So like if the string is empty, if the array is empty, or things like that. Yeah, but talking about turning your algorithm, your concept into code, that comes by like practice only.
Okay, got
Yeah,
it. So the
I
practice is
totally
the key.
agree.
Yeah. So practice is the key to solve these problems. Great. So coming on to the next question, which is to Arnav, that how has competitive coding affected your day-to-day life? How can you implement it?
So day-to-day life, I won't go as far as that, because competitive programming, the skill set that you acquire in competitive, as far as I know, it has only affected my ability to work in the company. It has positively affected or positively impacted my performance in the company, because what you come across, like in the initial days, what is the first thing that you initially learn about coding is breaking down the problem into simpler aspects, solving those simpler problems, and then compiling it and going to the top. So this is very important, because whenever you come across a problem, especially when you're working for a company, you have some abstract requirements, and you're not given a complete direction as to how you need to implement it. You will have some leeway there. So since the problem is abstract, I think you face some issues with if you think about it from the top, I think it becomes problematic. Uh, how to think about the dependencies and how to implement things that work in conjunction. But if you break down the problem, basically something like a binary search or divide and conquer, you break down the problem, take out the separate components, implement them, and then make them work together. So this way of approaching problems is very helpful, especially in your job since you're working with computers. But it does help to a little extent in your general life also. But it helps a lot when you're working with a company.
That's nice. Next question is for all of you. So, what platforms do you prefer for solving questions? So, you mentioned CodeChef, CodeForces, LeetCode, Project Euler. Is there anything else that you would like to recommend? All of you.
So
Add
if you are
coder is
actually out of,
nice.
Kunal.
No, that is all. Ad Coder is nice. They also hold regular contests, and their community is also like merged with like CodeForces. So they whenever the contest is over, all the tutorials and everything is shared on CodeForces blogs. So it's a good platform.
Yeah. So if you are preparing for the interviews, then I think in a short time interview bit can help you a lot. And otherwise, having a good grasp of how the HackerRank platform works, it can be really helpful because it's used for the coding round of most of the companies. And Geeks for Geeks can be helpful to understand the algorithms, like to know what different kinds of solutions can be applied with different trades of like time complexity and space complexity. So that can be helpful, provided like in the interviews, like you're asked between the like asked to juggle between the different trade-offs. So that can be helpful, like Geeks for that.
So I guess,
Okay, thanks a lot.
yeah, so
So,
my favorite platform, I think it's CodeChef. So what I recommend to people is basically start with CodeChef, long challenges, try to hit a rating of 4 star. Then you know that you have your basic DSA down. After that move on to CodeForces, because then CodeChef does not really offer something interesting there. You're done with that. Then on CodeForces, if you progress a lot, if you progress with time, you will see that your general approach to problem solving improves a lot. And since the format of a question on CodeForces is very similar to an interview, you have a short amount of time, you need to come up with a solution, and you don't get a, even if you get a wrong answer, you get penalized. So that's where CodeForces helps. And when you're starting off, I think a lot of people tend to go to CodeForces or other platforms, but I think so. These specialized coding platforms or coding companies, basically, they have created their own contest problems. So particularly the one I like is Coding Blocks. If you go to their platform called Hacker Blocks, they have some basic course problems. They have opened it to everyone. Anyone can go and do those problems. So there are like 200, 300 well curated problems that train you from the very basic to certain medium level or advanced concept based on the contest. So if you want to start, go there. If you want to get into competitive programming, then CodeChef and CodeForces is my recommendation.
thanks a lot. Like, again, to a question to all of you, what do you think about initiatives like this one? What are your thoughts on what would you like to like, recommend as long-term goals for those who are getting into competitive programming?
Um, yeah, anyone who is helping the community is doing great work. So keep up the good work, and it's a really great initiative. Really looking forward to see what you have like for the future of this like particular initiative and like boot camp or whatever. So keep up the good work, and like helping others is always something that others should, also get engaged in. So what I'm saying is the only thing better than helping people is helping people who help people. So yeah, good work, and keep up the good work.
Yeah, so I have always been in the favor of healthy and competitive coding cultures. So this is the main advantage that the tier one IITs, triple ITs, and NITs have. So I think this should definitely reach the tier two and tier three colleges. And you guys are doing a really great job. The coding culture is a really good initiative to bring all of the colleges together, and like more the merrier, as they say. So that is really important when you talk about coding culture. So this is a really great initiative. Kudos.
Yeah, definitely big shout out to you guys. Because I believe that whenever you're in college, some people do get good guidance in their colleges like IITs and NITs and triple ITs, but a lot of people lack that mentorship. So it's not that someone is very smart, someone is not. It's just, in my opinion, it's just a lack of that mentorship that you need. If you have that, anyone can transform into gold. So you guys are doing a really good job. So kudos to that.
Thank you
Thanks
so
a
much,
lot. Like,
Kunal, Anshul, and Arnav. Uh, thank you so much,
we'll
and
make sure
we'll
we continue to deliver, and like for that, make sure you join our Discord servers, follow us on our social media handles, and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Let's now move on to Q&A and take up questions from the chat section.
yeah.
You should be able to see the questions on your screen right now. And like the question is by Lakshay. In CodeForces Division 2 challenge, how should we mentally prepare when AB are solved, but how to approach for other questions?
Arnav?
So guys, coming to these problems, so how do you, so when you see all these code forces problems, one thing that happens is there is a pattern to all these problems. If you think about it, A and B, A or B is basically a mathematic problem. Then you move to C and D. It's a very simple array problem. Then you move on to D, which is somewhat of an optimized, somewhat high level DP math problem, or you can say probability problem. So if you do like 10 to 20 contests, you have that pattern down. So after you have that pattern down, you know that this is the particular way this problem can be solved. This is how it can be approached. And I think this is where you see a lot of difference when some good coders start with CodeForces initially. They face a few problems, but with time they get a grasp of how the graph progresses, how the questions progress. So that is where you know what you need to implement. So just put in a lot of practice. Try to give 10 to 20 contests. You'll have that down. No issues there.
Yeah, great. I hope that this answered this question. So can we have a next question? Yeah, the next question is from Abhijit. It says that platforms like CodeChef and CodeForces, they just provide few test cases and the situation usually the passes, then but the hidden test cases fail. So how to handle those, the hidden test cases?
या आई मीन उसी को तो कंप्यूटर कोडिंग कहते हैं तो लाइक अब वो भी बता देंगे तो बचा ही क्या so that is what you have to you know take into account. So most of the time, like I mentioned before also, edge cases are really important. And the second point I want to make here is the size of your input. That can also affect these things. So make sure you take a note of the range and stuff. Sometimes what happens is numbers that are not fitting in an integer, you're using int, so you might be want to like use long or something. So yeah, make sure you take a look at the edge cases and also the constraints.
Yeah, those are like really good tips. Can we have the next question, please? So, next one is how deep should we go into learning languages before starting with competitive programming?
So there is no, Kunal said, that tutorial helps. So don't wait to start competitive programming. Like as and when you learn something, try to implement it. Like if you are done with prime numbers, then try to find out how quickly can you get the nth prime number. So there are different approaches to get the nth prime number. So start with order n, then square root of n, then log n. So that way, try to implement things as you learn. Don't preserve them for a contest which is going to come after 1 month. So keep implementing things, keep practicing them, and a good way is to explain those solutions to your friends. So that can be really helpful when your friend provides you feedback that, hey, you have done this thing in this complexity. This thing, like you can improve upon this. So actually, this helps a lot during interviews. Like when my friend used to discuss the problems that were asked to him, and I used to say, अरे तू इसके मतलब पूरे मैट्रिक्स की जगह तू सिर्फ 2 rows स्टोर करके भी डीपी की प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व कर सकता था. So that can be helpful to get a feedback from your friend. So that is how like you can dwell into competitive programming.
Okay, yes,
Yeah,
I
so
guess that
that's
answers the
actually a
question.
great answer.
I have something to add
Yes.
here. So basically, when you come to how deep to go into a language, I think a lot of people, although they are done with the basic concepts like how to, so when you're doing your basic courses, you learn how to implement basic DSA. But people who get into competitive programming, they should have their basic DSA down based on the STLs that they have. So you should know how to implement a queue, priority queue, hash map, and everything because they offer a lot of advantage. Some people are not aware of those STLs or basic a simple find function. You even can implement like binary search and other things. You can do a lot of things on basic DSA where you don't need to write code again and again if you know your STL. So I think if you have your STL down and the basic DS there, so that is very helpful when you start with competitive programming.
Yeah, those are some good tips. Next question, please.
Yeah, so is
Is
competitive
competitive
coding
programming
necessary for getting a job in companies like Microsoft or big tech giants?
So
So actually, it's not a necessity. Yeah, yeah,
in my
yeah.
experience, I don't think it's a necessity. Um, So that's what I think Anshul was also endorsing. It's not a necessity. I've seen people get into Google, Microsoft, Facebook without having done competitive programming ever. It's not a necessity. However, it does help because the format of competitive programming is great. It prepares you for what's coming. And also, when you get a good rating on these platforms, this is something that you can put on your resume and it definitely catches the eye of the recruiters or even your interviewers. They find it interesting. So I think that's where competitive programming helps, but it's not the most important thing. There's a lot of difference between competitive programming and interview programming.
Yeah, plus one to that, like even if you don't have like high ranks and stuff, you can still get like opportunities for like internships and other things.
Anshul, you were saying something.
Yeah, so actually, like a little iteration of what Kunal and Arnav said. So there are some contests that Google provides, like Google Kickstart, CodeGem, and Hashcode. So you can easily bypass the resume shortlisting if you are like really really good at competitive programming. If you get like around 300 200 rank, then the recruiters can directly reach you via those results, and that sometimes can be surprising as well as advantageous to the competitive coders. So I know a lot of people like who are my colleagues right now. So they didn't have a really good development profile or ML, DS, anything, but they were pretty good competitive programmers and they got shortlisted for interviews only via Kickstart. So that can be a shorter ticket to Google or like some companies like Microsoft and Amazon.
Uh, Thanks for your inputs.
Yes.
Can we have the next question, please?
Yeah.
How
So
much
here's the
time
next
should we
question that
devote to uh, yeah, how much
how
time
much
should we
time
devote to
should we
CP and
devote to
how much should
CP?
development?
So, guys, in my opinion, unless you are very much interested in development and you think so, this is like a little tricky. But if you love development, if you love open source, and you think you can work hard enough and make a career out of it directly, if you think you can get some job opportunities there, then it's definitely worth it to get into development. So probably you can get tips for that from Kunal. But otherwise, I never recommend development to anyone who in college. The reason is very simple because when companies come to hire you, they only check up on how good your DSA is, how good your competitive programming profiles are, and that's what matters in an interview. Because when you get into a company, they will teach you whatever you need from the very basics. They will teach you everything. So you don't need to have prerequisite knowledge of WebD, Android, ML, etc. People waste a lot of time in all those skills. What you can basically focus on, what you should focus on, is basically your GPA and your competitive programming or programming skills in general. Yeah.
Yeah, plus one to that, I would also like to say that that's completely true. But like for people whose college, like companies are not going to come to your college, like tier three colleges. So in that case, you have to reach out to those companies because they are not going to come to your college. That is the hard truth. And in that case, you have to have a like a in order to get shortlisted, you have to have like a strong resume. And like both the points mentioned by Anshul and Arnav, that competitions by Google like Kickstart and stuff. So if you have really high ranks in that, that can build up your resume. If you like have really high ranks in CodeForces and stuff, that can also build up your resume. So I definitely agree. And like uh, regarding internships and like opportunities and stuff, they are going to test you on your comparative coding, be it if you're from like a tier one college or tier two college. There are some companies like in which you can get opportunities if you are not able to do competitive coding at all. So like Red Hat, I got one at HackerRank recently. None of them like asked me about comparative coding. It was mostly focused on my previous experiences. Other than that, you can one point I would like to make is you can attend events like KubeCon and stuff, the open source summit. Over there, they have this really awesome hiring board and stuff. So there you can easily network with people and get opportunities in some international startup or something. So that has been quite effective, like for me at least. So make sure you check out these events as well. linuxfoundationevents.com, I believe that is a website. So networking, especially if you're from a tier 3 college, one of the most important things that you can do is network with people, because these companies are not going to like come to our college, so we have to reach out to them.
Yeah, so I would like to add on to one thing here that not many of you would know, but Kunal is one of the few people that I have seen has got an opportunity to interview for US intern for Google. And I don't think he is much into CP, and this is where open source has given him an edge. And I always recommend that CP should be taken as a sport. Like सुबह हम छोटे थे तब कैसे क्रिकेट खेलने जाते थे like 8 से 12. So CP should also be taken in a sporty manner, and it should be taken to refresh you, and it should not be your career goal. So that is the thing I want to emphasize again and again to all those people who keep on asking like how necessary CP is. It is necessary only as much as a sport is necessary in your life building.
Exactly, and like Anshul bhaiya read my mind. मैं भी यही करता था. I used to practice like 2 hours सुबह सुबह, and rest of the time I gave to my open source and development. So like internships, cloud native things, and uh, that consistency is really important, because when I actually appear for an interview, I don't want to be stressed कि I missed out on this topic, I missed out on this question. So having थोड़ा थोड़ा रोज करना, it can really help you.
I'm sure that would help a lot of people here. Next question is by Anshul. One problem I usually face is that I'm not consistent. Started doing CP, but then I realized I don't know much enough DSA, and then I tried to learn them. Now neither do I CP or not. You studied DSA. What can be done?
First thing, like you started CP before DSA, so I don't think like that is the correct order. Having like a basic knowledge of data structures is important, and like Anshul Bhaiya mentioned, you can start with like mathematics concept as well. Regarding consistency, or better like known as people procrastinate sometimes, so I would say start small and set realistic expectations for the day. I personally suffered with this. I used to have like such high expectations for my day, and in the end, if I wasn't able to complete everything on my to-do list, I felt a little bit demotivated. So I would say set realistic expectations, and like regarding consistency, uh, there are a lot of aspects in this. Like some people get like so one of the reasons people don't follow consistency is because they are distracted sometimes. तो इसमें काफ़ी सारी चीज़ें आ जाते हैं, like and there's another whole topic like आई साइट के सामने बेड नहीं होना चाहिए. So that is something that has helped me. Like if you have a bed in your eyesight, then you will feel like sleeping. Phone थोड़ा switch off करके आप रख के रख सकते हो. General stuff, but others can like add on to it.
Yeah, I hope this solves the doubt. And the basic point is that you should start with DSA and then dive into competitive coding. You should have some basic knowledge. So now we can have a next question. Yeah, I'm not able to understand which data structure is better for a particular problem, and I don't know how to approach a particular situation. That's the problem. So,
Arnav?
So guys, again, this question usually comes when you're starting off or you have not actually attended too many contests. So this thing can only be solved using practice, hard work, consistency, and you need to at least. So if you want to see some results, you need to put in at least 3 to 4 months. That's a given. So just that doesn't matter how much you know or anything else. If you are dedicated, if you put in 3 to 4 months, you will see drastic changes. Because I think that's also the time it takes to. I think so. It goes a little bit to some off topics like neurology or biology, but it takes some time to make your brain connections work in a certain way. And to do that, you need to be consistent and put in some effort on a regular basis. That's how you condition your mind to work in that way. So you need to put in like 3 to 4 months at least before you can get onto the track and like see. So when you see some movies, you have some things like going on in the mind of the person who's doing a lot of things at once. So that starts happening. That's because of these neural connections only. So you need to put in like 3 to 4 months at least.
all right. So one more question. which is from Aditya. Being a newbie coder, I find the logic building process a little difficult, but I see some of my friends are really good in that. And is there anything that can help me with this?
So logic is something that you will learn with practice. Like if your friends are really good at them, just don't look at their performance on a face value. Try to understand that they also might have practiced a lot before they reach this stage. And on answering your actual question of logic building, try to divide the problem into sub problems. So let's talk about the example of the diamond fitting. If you are not able to understand the logic behind the diamond fitting, then try to break the problem. Like first, try to build the first triangle, then try to build the lower triangle. And while building the first triangle, try to have one function to put in the spaces, try to print the stars, and try to put in the end spaces. So in that way, if you divide the problem into sub problems and use them as black boxes, then you will be able to understand the logic in a better way. So that can really help you. And the best way to understand logic is through recursive problems. So if you're not able to understand the logic in iterative ones, try to go for recursive ones. So they will help you a lot.
Those are some really nice tips from you all. Thank you, Anshul, Arnav, and Kunal, for taking your time from your schedule out and joining us for this session. We are sure that everyone who joined in gained a lot from it, and it will help them kickstart their careers in the world of competitive programming. Before we leave, I would
Yes.
love if all of you could give some advice to those who have joined in and end it on the same note. Some final advices that you would like to give.
Yeah. So
Uh, don't be afraid to start. Okay, you can go ahead.
okay, cool. Yeah, first of all, thanks a lot to Anunay and Abhishek for hosting this entire thing and to the entire team behind, like, who is in the backstage right now. So kudos to them. Well done. And to those who are starting, like, start slow. Slow and steady will always win the race. And स्टार्ट विथ मतलब इजी इजी प्रॉब्लम्स पहले सॉल्व करो. कोड शेफ में जो केक वॉक प्रॉब्लम्स होती है, इजी प्रॉब्लम्स होती है, उससे शुरू करो. ट्राई टू गेट द मोमेंटम, ट्राई टू गेट द कॉन्फिडेंस. फिर कोड फोर्सेस पे ए लेवल की प्रॉब्लम्स पहले सॉल्व करो. कोड फोर्सेस पे एक प्रॉब्लम सर्चिंग बाय टैग भी होता है. सो इफ यू वांट, लाइक इफ यू आर फेसिंग डिफिकल्टी इन अ पर्टिकुलर टाइप ऑफ प्रॉब्लम, ट्राई टू सॉल्व देम मोर. गीक्स फॉर गीक्स पे उस क्वेश्चंस के लाइक जो आर्काइव्स होती है वो एक बार गो थ्रू कर लो. इफ यू आर फेसिंग डिफिकल्टीज विद स्ट्रिंग्स, तो मुझे ये बहुत होता था, लाइक आई यूज्ड टू बी स्कैर्ड ऑफ स्ट्रिंग्स. But एक बार, like, if you solve few questions on a trot, then you get the confidence to solve them, and then your fear is also eradicated. So that can really help a lot if you are hit with a deadlock. Kunal?
Yeah, and like just don't be afraid to start, and don't like be stuck in tutorial hell. Don't be scared to explore, and don't be like scared to network with people. There's one more thing called like learning in public. So meeting other people, like other developers who are really active in the community from all over the world, that is very very like the people, they are really active from these communities on Twitter. So you can be active on Twitter and reach out to these people, see what people are working on. And the most important thing is like have fun. So having fun is really important. Don't stress too much, and yeah, just keep learning and give your best. Yeah.
So what I think is basically whenever people are joining in for any discussion, especially like this, what they need is some sort of motivation. I think that's what they're looking for. So motivation, guys, is something very easy in our industry. You are in an industry which is booming right now. There are a lot of opportunities, and compared to other industries like something that is related to your BCom or your arts, guys, we are at a very cool advantage. We have high salaries, low work hours, and lots of perks. And the difference in the scale of perks and salaries and your work hours varies a lot with how much effort you put in right now. So you will see that from the very same college, people are getting salaries or benefits worth 10 LPA to some who are getting something worth 25, 30 LPA. And all the difference is basically these 4 years and like 1 or 2 hours of regular coding every day. So if you need motivation, you have your entire life sorted. If you start putting in effort right now, doesn't matter which college you are from, tier one, tier two, tier three. I've seen people getting into Google, Microsoft, Amazon easily from any college. Just a little bit of hard work is required. The last thing I like to say is one thing that everyone should do every point in life is work smart, not exactly hard. What I mean by that is, in our industry, another advantage is that you can work offshore. There are a lot of good opportunities provided to us, especially by companies like Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook, Google. They have their branches in many countries, and you can apply for them from India and get those opportunities. This is a rare occurrence. I've seen people from tier three colleges get good or great jobs in Google, Facebook, Amazon offshore. So the salaries are amazing. Then a lot of people have that desire to go abroad and adjust to a life there. So I think that helps a lot. So keep an eye out on all these opportunities. One more thing is that in India, you have 10,000 people competing for one or two positions. Compare that to your Europe or America, where you have 100 people competing for one or two positions. There also, if you see their local population, their local coders, they don't. So this is the general pattern. They don't put in that much effort as much as we do in India. So you are at a clear advantage there compared to India, compared to their coders. So always keep that in mind and never forget to apply to offshore opportunities in your third and fourth years.
Okay, thank you so much, Arnav, Anshul, and Kunal. Your words were really inspirational. So now I would like to invite Lasya to give her concluding speech.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining in for this session. You all were an amazing audience, and we're looking forward to be there with you in your competitive programming journey. This journey of the coding culture has just started, and with many more things planned for you all to get you started with competitive programming. We're coming up with a coding contest on the 21st of November. The details about the coding contest will be shared on our Discord server, whose link is in the description below, and also in the comment section. We'll very soon put up the link as well in the comment section. So kindly check that out. And thank you, Arnav, Kunal, and Anshul, for joining in and taking out your time and sharing such valuable inputs for our audience. So stay tuned, guys, to not miss many of such resources, to not miss many more webinars like this. Stay tuned to our Discord server kindly. That's where that's where we'll be sharing all the resources and updates about our upcoming events. uh, so till then, keep learning, keep coding. Thank you.